And so one of the things God was really clear with me about, he says, was like, Jason, you have to occupy your promise. Like, I died to redeem you from sin, but I also purchased your potential and promises for you. And like in business, a good businessman doesn't want to leave anything on the table. I don't want to leave anything undone or unfulfilled that he died on the cross and paid such a high price for me to do, right? And so that kind of has given me a new sense of boldness to take risks for him because he died for that purpose.
Rabbi Jason Sobel is with me today. He is a great friend. Man, this guy is a walking, talking encyclopedia of faith, and I can't wait to have him back. You know, we had him, it's been a couple of years ago, and we featured him here on the podcast, and it's one of our most downloaded podcasts, and people just love this guy. You know, he was raised in a Jewish home in Jersey. He dedicated much of his life in pursuit of spiritual connection with God. And after years of seeking and studying, he encountered God and found his true destiny as a Jewish follower of Jesus. And this is cool. His story is so cool. And he is on fire right now. He's all over the place. I see him on TV. He's doing these like 30-minute documentary pieces or intros to the series The Chosen, and that's airing on TBN right now. And you know what? He's really quite good. Rabbi Jason's quite good on camera. So who knows? Maybe we'll get an opportunity to work with him in that way at some point. You know, previously he wrote a book called The Rock, the Road, and the Rabbi with Kathie Lee Gifford, and she's a big fan of his, and they've done a number of tours to Israel. So he has a new book out, and I had to have him here to talk about this because he just connects dots like no one other. You know, many times you read these things in the Bible and you go, well, how did that happen, or why did that happen, and how come this came across a certain way? He just puts it all together. So his new book is called Mysteries of the Messiah. And Rabbi Jason Sobel is my guest today on CIA Contagious Influencers of America. I'm David Sams, and here is the interview. So how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Life is good.
Oh, man, what a year, what a year. You've always got something going, I'll tell you. Another book.
Yeah.
And this is no ordinary book, okay? I got this and I go, oh, man, get him over here. I got to hear the mysteries of the Messiah.
Yes, come on. There's mysteries waiting to be revealed.
So tell me about this because, you've had a couple of hits. The last one was with Kathie Lee Gifford, The Rock, the Road, and the Rabbi. Right?
Yeah, New York Times bestseller. It just hit over 500,000 copies sold.
Wow, that's
recently.
Crazy. And now you have this brand new book. And so tell me about this.
Yeah, kind of the inspiration behind it is that, one year I went out and bought a high definition television, and I was so excited to watch the Super Bowl. And I was just like, oh, this isn't so great. And then I was flipping through the channels at the end, and I realized I had a revelation that I had watched the whole game in standard definition because I didn't realize the higher channels were the high definition stations.
Right.
And when I did, I was like, whoa, this really makes a difference. This really makes the game come alive in a new way. And in the same way, I think a lot of people are reading the Bible in standard definition. And I want to help people see the scriptures in high definition to have that kind of road to Emmaus experience. Because I believe that when you see the connections between the old and the new, it brings life-changing effects, right? Revelation leads to transformation. And that's why this book was written, to give hope and transformation by connecting the old and the new. That's good.
So give me the obvious example of that.
Oh my goodness. There are so many examples of that. But like one example that I love in the book that I think is just some really practical is that Moses goes up on Mount Sinai, and he gets the first set of tablets of the 10 Commandments. He comes down, he sees the people worshiping the golden calf, he smashes the tablets, he winds up going back on the mountain and getting a second set of tablets. The question is, it's kind of the mystery of the broken tablets. What did Moses do with the first set of tablets that were broken? They were written by the finger of God. And you're not just going to throw those away, right? So in Jewish thought, what does he do? He takes the broken tablets and they're placed in the Ark of the Covenant right along with the whole tablets. Why is that significant? Because it teaches us that wholeness comes out of brokenness, that there is nothing as whole as a broken heart, and that God is the God of second chances. And so the idea is that every time they'd hear the ark moving, they'd hear the broken pieces rumbling in it. And God is asking us to give him the broken pieces of our life so that he can make something beautiful out of it. But of course, there's more. There's something on a deeper level. The first set of broken tablets is like the first coming of Jesus. He was broken for us, like those tablets were broken for our sin. And then it's interesting that the letters fly, in Jewish thought, the letters fly off the stone tablets back to heaven. And Jesus ascends to heaven on the 40th day after he was broken for our sins. And the second set of tablets is like his second coming when he comes to bring the kingdom and bring wholeness and transformation once and for all for the entire world.
So I got to ask you, how do you come up with this stuff? Do you wake up like at 2 a.m. and go, what happened to those broken tablets? I mean, seriously.
I mean, it just comes through just study and meditating on the scripture. And really, I think in a sense, we're called to be detectives. We're called to ask why. Right? Why, what? We're called to engage and wrestle with the scriptures. And when we do, these questions come out and we search for the answers for these mysteries like good detectives.
What is the number one mystery that people are just, they can't get enough of it? What is the one thing that they're just in awe of and they want to know more about it?
Oh man, I think there's so many. I think that,
but there's got to be one that's like on everybody's mind, and they're always asking you.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that really kind of intrigues people is around the kind of the death of Jesus, right? And it's kind of one is the mystery of the sixth day. So the question is right, Christians, it's a big thing, Good Friday, right? But of all the days that Jesus could have died, why does he have to die on the sixth day, right? Why is that so significant? Well, man was created on the sixth day, and we fell on the sixth day in Jewish thought. We lost 6 things. So Jesus comes, he does the water into wine with 6 stone pots. He dies on the 6th day of the week. 6 in Hebrew, Hebrew's alphanumeric, so you write letters with numbers. So the number that represents the letter 6 is the letter Vav. The letter Vav is literally the conjunction and. It's the letter that connects heaven and earth. When we sinned, we broke the connection between heaven and earth. Jesus dies on the cross to restore that connection so that we might be healed and made whole.
That's the way I feel about Michigan football dying on the 6th day against Ohio State.
Yeah, there you go.
I had to throw that in there. You walked into my house and you go, well, what is this about Ohio State every place?
Yeah, and I think right with that is tied to that is the mystery of the tree, right? Of why does Jesus have to die on a cross, right? And so part of the thing is that Jesus has to die on the cross because how did sin enter the world? We stole from the tree. So God puts back on the tree for you and me to make an atonement and a repair for the sin of the first man and woman who stole from the tree. And really one of the things people are fascinated by with this mystery, and when you say, what is the mystery? It's the mystery of the numbers. See, the Bible is alphanumeric, right? And so we get a lot into the numerical connections between things. So example with the cross, right? An example of that is the word for tree, which man stole from, ha'etz, the tree. In Hebrew, one of the words for the cross is the tree, has a numerical value of 165, which is the same numerical value of the word for curse. When we took from the tree, we brought a curse on creation. Then Jesus dies on the tree 165 to reverse the curse 165 and to restore the blessing. And so there's all these sorts of numerical things. Like another example of that is they call it, maybe this is one of the ones that most fascinates people when it comes to numbers, is 666, the mystery of 666. And that ties into the mystery of the Jesus number, right? And so the first question is, why is the mark of the beast 666, right? And what's interesting is that 6 is the number of man, right? We talked about how man fell on the sixth day. In Hebrew, whenever you say anything 3 times, like holy, 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 you're saying that is the most. So 666 is the number of the physical world. God created man on the sixth day. He created the physical world on the sixth day. So 6 is the number of the physical world. 666 is complete physicality apart from spirituality. It's physicality and materialism to the extreme. And that's what the mark of the beast is. It's all your physical needs apart from any of spirituality. It's gaining the whole world, but losing your soul. So that's an aspect of it. And then you have the Jesus number, which is interesting because just like the Antichrist has a number, Jesus has a number. Well, what's Jesus' number? Jesus in Greek adds up to 888. So if Satan is 666, Jesus is 888. So he's 222 above the mark of the beast. The interesting thing is that the incredible thing about that, if you go to one of the key messianic prophecies in the scripture, where it says, to us a son is born, a child is given, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, a Mighty God, Prince of Peace, right? If you look at that verse in Hebrew, if you add up every 7th letter, Hebrew letter in that verse, guess what it adds up to? 888. There's all these numbers of 888 in a number of different ways connects to messianic prophecies that talk about the coming of Jesus. And so 8 is a number of the supernatural. Jesus rises from the dead, in a sense, on the 8th day. He's the 8th son of Jesse. 8 turned on its side is a number of infinity, because when he dies, he brings the infinite and eternal into the finite. So there's all these crazy numbers. 8 is a number of new beginnings. And so he comes to bring us a new beginning. A new day dawns with us, which is ultimately what the Messianic kingdom is. It's 888. It's the ultimate new beginning. It's heaven invading earth. It's the complete transformation of everything that is. It's the reconnection of heaven and earth. So there's all these interesting mysteries related to the numbers.
Talk to me about Easter. Let's talk about Easter a little bit.
Yeah.
And the mysteries surrounding Easter, the significance of some of the symbolism of Easter. I want to dive in that just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is the actual day on which it occurs, right? So Easter originally in the Bible is Passover, right? It's when God brought the children of Israel out of Egypt, right? And it starts on the 14th day of the month of Nisan, okay? Why is that so important? Because 14 in Hebrew literally is the way that you write hand in Hebrew. 14 is the number of the hand. How does God redeem Israel out of Egypt? With a mighty hand and with an outstretched arm. When Jesus dies on the 14th day of Nisan, right? It's demonstrating God's hand once again in an even greater way, working in our lives, working his salvation, extending his hand to you and me to take us out of our own personal Egypts, the places of confinement, the places of restriction. But there's still more. It was on May 14th, 1948 that Israel became a state. So Israel's redeemed from Egypt on the 14th. Jesus dies, right? And the whole passion connected to the 14th, the hand of God again in history, bringing redemption. And then in modern times, Israel is birthed on May 14th. It's the hand of God in modern times, working a new Passover, working a new work of redemption.
That's so awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your mindset right now, because it's been a couple years since we talked, and you've been on this journey, and I know that you've done some things over the last couple of years that have been new for you.
Yeah.
Right. You're getting to some new areas, including a TV series you got coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. So what have you done to pivot, to look at things differently and decide to take some risks?
No, I think that's a great question. I think it ties back into the mysteries of the Messiah, in the sense that, something that we call the mystery of the Aleph, right? When God calls Moses to come in to meet with him in the tabernacle in Leviticus chapter 1, the Hebrew word there is, the first important word of Leviticus 1:1 is vayikra. And the word "and he called" in Hebrew has a small letter aleph on the end. And the question is, why is it written with a small letter aleph? Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And it's because Moses was so humble that he didn't want to write that God called him. So he wrote it with a small letter aleph, because without the aleph, it means that God called by chance and not intentionally. And one of the things we learn about from the small letter aleph is that humility is about occupying the right amount of space. That you can't be full of God and full of yourself at the same time. Humility is occupying the right amount of space. Now, there's two things about humility, right? There's pride, which is negative, right? You're occupying too much space, right? But I think what most of us struggle with is a kind of false sense of humility, kind of, I can't really do it. I'm not good enough. How could I ever be able to? How could God ever use me like that? And so one of the things God was really clear with me about, he says, was like, Jason, you have to occupy your promise. Like, I died to redeem you from sin, but I also purchased your potential and promises for you. And like in business, a good businessman doesn't want to leave anything on the table. I don't want to leave anything undone or unfulfilled that he died on the cross and paid such a high price for me to do, right? And so that kind of has given me a new sense of boldness to take risks for him, because he died for that purpose.
That's strong. That's real strong. Yeah. I'll tell you that now you got to me. Now you got to me. So let's talk about your TV series.
Yeah.
You've got a new TV series coming on, and that's pretty good stuff. It's amazing what that series has done, isn't it? The Chosen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And The Chosen has had global impact. Over 80-something million people have seen the TV series. And this goes back to what we were just, because look, I mean, who am I to do a TV series, right? I mean, like, honestly, that was scary. I mean, right? I feel like, hey, I've got a face for radio, right? I'm going to be on TV, right? And it was one of the hardest things, like demanding things that I've had to do. And honestly, at some points I was like, man, maybe I should just tell them I don't want to do this. This is really hard and stressful. But it turned out amazing. Like, we took the risk, we stepped out, we did it. We recorded these, we're partnering with TBN. So TBN is going to air each episode of The Chosen. And before in each episode of The Chosen, we have a teaching series, The Chosen Unveiled, that's going into kind of the mysteries and the deeper things behind each of the episodes of The Chosen.
Now explain to folks who are not familiar with The Chosen what that is, and it's pretty remarkable how they put this thing together. Dallas Jenkins.
Yeah, Dallas Jenkins, yeah. So The Chosen is the brainchild and vision of Dallas Jenkins, and he wanted to create a binge-worthy show on the life of Jesus. So it's the first multi-season, multi-episode TV series on the life of Jesus. And it's also the first and most successful crowdfunded So over 16,000 people, over $10 million contributed, most successful crowdfunded media project ever to make this TV series on the life of Jesus. What I love in the disciples, what I love about it is the focus of it is on really on the individuals who encounter Jesus and get transformed by that encounter, which is kind of unique and sort of it's the focus on Jesus and everything else is peripheral. This is people encountering him and being changed.
So you're going to do an intro and a sort of
it's a half-hour teaching series. It's 8 half-hour episodes on each episode of season 1 of The Chosen. So before every episode of The Chosen airs on TBN, I have a half-hour teaching episode before and after it.
Talk to me why you think The Chosen has taken folks by storm versus, because this story's been out there 100 times, right? It's been made into films and into TV series and all kinds of things in the past, but why is this particular production really having a very unique impact?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons. I think one has to do with the fact that they really wanted The Chosen to be done in its Hebraic Jewish context. And so they went to great pains to make sure it was culturally, historically accurate and to bring out the Jewishness of Jesus, like the Jewish wedding, the Sabbath, the characters, the prayers that are said. So that has been something that is really people have loved about it. Another thing is that the Jesus of The Chosen is a very relatable Jesus. A lot of the Jesus in these other films are kind of aloof, so spiritual, kind of otherworldly, right? This is a Jesus who laughs and has fun with the kids. And so people love that about it. And I also think the focus on the personal transformation that occurs from encountering him. So I think for all those reasons, it's just, and the production quality is great. So it's just a lot of different reasons.
Let's talk about, a lot of folks have, over the last year, have faced a lot of challenges that have really been life-changing. In some cases, they've lost their jobs, and they've lost relatives. They've lost going to school.
Yeah.
There's been all kinds of loss out there. Let's just talk about your own story in your own life. How have you dealt with setbacks when you're faced with a roadblock? And we all hate roadblocks. We all hate detours where, we're supposed to be there in the next 5 minutes, but now we have to go 20 miles out of our way.
Gosh.
Tell me a story about a particular time that you had to deal with something. You had to work around it, and how that turned out for you.
Oh, yeah. One of the things, a number of years ago, I thought I had got my dream job, moved out to California, and was leading an educational institute, and things were going well. And someone prayed over me and they said, Jason, you're going to go through a season of Joseph. And God began to speak to me, and the Lord said, I'm going to take you through the pits and the prisons, and I'm going to prepare you for the palace. And the guys that I were working for kind of threw me in a pit, lost my dream job, didn't know how I was going to pay the mortgage, how I was going to put food on the table for my kids. And it was just a really, really hard time. And I've been through things like that a number of times. And really God showed up in the midst of that. And he really spoke to me and he said, Jason, he goes, look, I have a promise for you, but you can't have the promise without the process. And that process involves going through the pits and the prison. That process involves wrestling with God. And it's one of the things we write about in Mysteries of the Messiah, the mystery of Jacob, how Jacob try to wrestle with everyone for the blessing. He tried to wrestle with his brother, his father, his uncle. And in the end, he realized that the only person he had to wrestle with was God. And God literally dislocated his hip. Jacob literally had to be broken. And one of the things God said to me is, Jason, don't trust a leader who doesn't walk with a limp. And so I realized that part of the key to receiving God's blessing in our life is brokenness. And I've just learned to embrace the brokenness and find God and realize that God really wants to use broken people and broken things. And that's really, he uses those individuals more than anyone else. And I think as a result of that brokenness and the humility and the empathy that came as a result of having to go through those experiences, I think is part of the reason why God's, opening the doors for me today. Because one of the things that I realized in all of this is that it's like we talk about in the book, Mysteries of the Messiah. It's like God creates the world out of nothing. You can't become something until you become nothing, right? You got to go back to the place of nothingness. You got to be willing to become less so that you can become more in him. And it's just a lesson that God has continually reinforced, that has given me the courage to know, you know what? God can take something that's broken and make something beautiful out of it.
You've started to travel again. When was the last time you were over in Israel?
About a year ago.
Because you usually go every year, right?
I usually go 4 times a year at least.
Yeah.
And Israel has been on complete lockdown. So there's no going to Israel, no matter how much.
What are you hearing? When are you going to be able to go back? What do you think?
I mean, we're hoping for the summer. I don't think it'll be open before the end of May, but there's a good chance that it's going to be longer. I mean, the real question is, are they going to require vaccinations? That's a question. I just read an article today out of Israel saying, even if most Israelis will be vaccinated, it doesn't really help unless most of the people who go are vaccinated. So there's all these kind of questions around that. So there's really just no way to tell right now.
Yeah. Well, that's really got to be something. How many times have you been over there?
Oh, at least 20-something times or more.
And you just can never get enough.
Yeah, it's probably more than. I mean, I go 3 or 4 times a year, so it's for the last number of years. So it's been no. I mean, look, I love taking people to Israel.
Yeah.
I mean, it is one of the most life-changing experiences that you can have is going to Israel. I mean, just like New York has an energy to it, Israel has a spiritual dynamic to it. Like the spiritual presence is so palpable in Israel. And I don't think if you can't have a better spiritual experience. It's like walking where Jesus and the disciples walking in their footsteps. I mean, it's the closest thing that you can have, especially when you go with the rabbi, to what it would have been to travel with Jesus. It's incredible. It's life-changing.
When did you know that you were called to be a rabbi? I mean, take us through that.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's funny, my whole story's in the book, but I grew up in a traditional Jewish family, went to Hebrew school as a child, was bar mitzvahed, was working in the music industry, pursuing fame and fortune, looked at the lives of all these famous people, said there has to be more to life than just this. And started a spiritual journey, was studying with my rabbi, was also studying martial arts and doing some meditation. One day I was meditating and my soul began to vibrate, left my body. I went to heaven and I encountered this king high and lifted up on this throne. And I didn't know anything about Jesus, Yeshua, but I knew that was him. And he told me I was called to serve him. The next thing I know is down in my body. I had no idea what that meant. Right? I had no context for it. But my best friend, John, who wasn't even Jewish, said, Jason, you went to Hebrew school. Could you tell the difference between Old and New Testament? And I said, sure. He read me this passage. He was bruised for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. By his stripes we're healed. He said, old or new? I said, new. Jesus. He said, no, that's the Hebrew prophet Isaiah, 700 years before Jesus walked the face of the earth. I began to be provoked to jealousy. Anyway, he walked me to a Messianic congregation. I came to faith and went home, hid my Bible. God forbid my parents should find it. I read the Bible, New Testament, for the first time, was blown away how Jewish it was. What Jesus said to me in the New Testament was, what Jesus said to me in that encounter in heaven was a verse from the New Testament. And I was like, he's the Messiah. My mom finds the Bible and she's like, go meet with the rabbi. And so I realized, you've joined a cult, go meet with the rabbi. And so I realized, man, I got to go meet with the rabbi. Like I got to be able to like make a case
right
for Jesus being the Messiah of Israel. Right. So I got out my Tanakh, my Hebrew Bible, and I'm underlining what I call the job description of the Messiah. And the first chapter of the book of mysteries is the story and the job description, all the messianic prophecies, how they all connect, how they point to the Messiah. And that really made me realize, you know what? I need to serve God. And I need to help people know him and experience what I've experienced. And that kind of was the impetus for me taking that journey.
Wow. Did your mom ever get over it?
Yeah.
Did?
I mean, they love me. My mom said to me one day, she goes, you know, I never told you this. I lost most of my family in the Holocaust. So she's like, I never told you this. I never wanted to influence what you did in your life. She goes, I always dreamed that one day, my secret dream I never told you was that you'd be a rabbi. She said, I didn't think you'd be this type of rabbi, but I'm still proud of you.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I can't wait to actually read this. This is so cool. Thanks for bringing my own copy. You didn't autograph it though, by the way.
I will autograph it, and you know, people can pre-order it, order it. There's some special gifts around with it. You know, at mysteriesofthemessiahbook.com. So I believe it's going to be life-changing. And it builds on the Rock, the Road, and the Rabbi. So people that enjoyed the Rock, the Road, and the Rabbi, this is building on that and going to the next level.
Well, Rabbi Jason, thank you much for stopping by the homestead. This has been fun. It's always fun. It's been a couple years. This is kind of ridiculous. You know, we ought to do this every few months.
I love it. Anytime. I love it. I always, you know, I love your heart and spirit and just what you bring.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks for stopping by.
Shalom, shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi Jason. It's always a delight to have you here at the homestead. Man, I love breaking bread with him. Oh, wow. I learn something new every day. He's just connects so many dots and fills in so many blanks. And I'm so glad that we could bring him to you. And hey, make sure you listen to the original podcast we did with him a couple of years ago. That one's very cool too. Like I said before, it's one of the most, everybody wants that podcast. I mean, I think it's one of our top 5 most downloaded podcasts since we started doing CIA. So make sure you check it out, and make sure you pick up a copy of his book, or download it, or do the Audible thing. However you get your books. It's called Mysteries of the Messiah, Rabbi Jason Sobel. It's available right now on Amazon or wherever you get your books. Hey, just wanted to mention to you once again, I know I have for the past several weeks, but a lot of people are very interested in this big festival as we come out of the dark and into the light post-pandemic. We are going to celebrate with an all-out, amazing outdoor festival here in Middle Tennessee. It's called Life Fest, a party with a purpose, and it's going to take place July the 29th through the 31st at here in Music City. Actually, it's a little south of Music City, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. We're even going to have some camping. This is a family thing. It's a family event, so it's safe for the whole family, and it's one of those things that I'm sure you're going to want to be a part of. You know, so many people want to come to Nashville these days. It's this is the it city. Now you have a real excuse. If you're a big fan of contemporary Christian music, the headliner stage is going to be full of amazing acts, from Skillet to Mendisa to the Newsboys, Matthew West, Danny Goki. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So for more information, go to KeepTheFaith.com and click on the link to Life Fest. You'll see the button right there. And make sure that when you're checking out, if you're going to order your tickets, make sure you use the promo code FAITH for a special discount. That's Life Fest Music City, coming to the Nashville and Middle Tennessee area the last week of July 2021. Well, I'm David Sams. This has been CIA, Contagious Influencers of America, the podcast from the producers of Keep the Faith. We really appreciate you, and we really appreciate your 5-star reviews. That's how people find out about us. So please go on whatever platform you're on right now and write a review. That really encourages others to check out our podcast. We really appreciate it. Hey, you know what? Go out there and live that life in living color, because it sure is a heck of a lot more interesting than living it in black and white, okay? You do that for me? We'll see you next time here on CIA, Contagious Influencers of America. Bye-bye.